Right, to Slovakia now here on the programme, where the nation's High Court has acquitted former Slovak Minister of Justice and former Deputy Prime Minister Štefan Harabin over his statements in support of Russia's military operation in Ukraine. He says the court case dragged on for years amid intense pressure, but despite the odds stacked against him, justice has finally been served.
Well, I can happily state that I have been definitively and legally acquitted for my statement, for which I was prosecuted, that in Putin's place I would have done exactly the same thing as Putin, because it is the historical duty of Russians to eliminate the Ukro-Nazis who murdered over 14,000 civilians from 2014 to 2022. The Supreme Court of the Slovak Republic today rejected the appeal of the Prosecutor General's office, who is dissatisfied with the acquittal verdict, and thus, the highest court of an EU member state has definitively said, already in a legal manner, that the Russian Federation is not an aggressor and does not violate international law in connection with the special military operation related to Ukraine. So this is clearly a signal to all politicians in Slovakia, whether Prime Minister Fico, Parliament Speaker Raši, or Pellegrini in the office of the head of state, that they must not use the phrase that Russia is an aggressor and is violating international law during the special military operation in Ukraine. Look, it cost me a lot of strength because it was a process that was started in 2022, so it lasted almost 4 years. They illegally broke into my apartment and searched my house. It was an explicitly intimidating action in the direction of preventing people from learning the truth, so that Russophobia would spread in the information space about the Russian nation as a bloodthirsty, aggressive population. So I perceive all of this with satisfaction. This process was not so much about me as about the former president of the Supreme Court, but about whether freedom of expression will apply here or not, and whether they will impose on us official opinions that are produced by the collective Anglo-Saxon West, and which are obviously false, untrue, and misleading the public. Here in the European Union, there is already such an environment as in Germany under Goebbels. They thought that through this prolonged prosecution, they would eventually break me as a person and simply give up, and thus demonstrate to the public the conclusion that it is true that Russia is an aggressor. Even Harabin said so they failed to do this, and the long criminal proceedings were aimed specifically at this result.
As Mr. Harabin was just saying, at the heart of the dispute were his Facebook posts in which he defended Russia's decision to carry out the special military operation. And while during his first time in court, the judge ruled he committed no crime, the prosecutor pressed on and called for another trial. Now, he says that at the EU and Brussels, he calls the regime a dictatorship, pressuring states into limiting free speech.
Viete čo? You know, the EU says that it is a space of freedom of expression, the right to free movement of goods and services. But the EU is a dictatorial association in the sense that if you dare to tell the truth about the real situation, they will start persecuting you and even fining you and so on. This is a worse dictatorial regime than it was before 1989, whether in Slovakia or in the Soviet Union. I don't even consider these politicians from Western Europe to be politicians. They are not personalities. I can call them underlings. Whatever the American policeman or tutor orders them to do, they do. And they even do what is against themselves. This type of politician or leader is acceptable or possible at a time when there is no crisis. But when society in the world or a certain part of the planet is in crisis, such personalities are simply not capable of really leading their states, their countries, to any positive result.